Welcome back. Process, preparation, performance. I'm Duke. He's Simmons. We're here with Coach Kevin Miles, entering into his 11th year as the head coach at Palmyra High School here in Missouri. Coach and I actually sort of knew each other. We battled against each other one awesome Saturday in the playoffs. I'll never forget that day. I've actually had a chance to talk to him about it. It was a great day that was celebrated by the kids, by a couple of communities, and Coach has actually come to a couple of clinics that Coach Simmons and I have helped put on. And just getting a chance to see him and talk to him about that thing, JR, I said, we got to get this guy on the podcast.
Yeah.
And he graciously agreed, taking some time out of his night on a Thursday here in the beginning of May. The weather's not that good outside anyway, so there's nothing to do out there.
No,
So
it's supposed to start raining here anytime, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Coach, how are you?
I am great. And that was a fun game. That was one of my first playoff games like that. And I think back to that day, and it was a beautiful day, and it was just, gosh, that was just so much excitement to be involved in that on a Saturday in Palmyra, and it was a fun time. So I appreciate the opportunity to be with you guys. And like you said, I've been to your clinics and done different things, and it's great to sit here and have the opportunity to visit and talk some football.
That'd be great. JR, I got to tell you a story about that day.
Uh-oh.
So Palmyra, great place to play a football game, great place to watch a football game. We were on the grass field at the time. I'm coaching. I'm the DC for our previous school. Literally standing, touching me are the cheerleaders.
Yeah.
The cheerleaders are right behind me.
Ours and theirs, both. Yeah.
Yes, right there. I remember turning around to the referee and going, "Hey man, can you get the cheerleaders back a little bit? Because like I'm on the sideline here and they're literally right behind me." And you know what he said to me? Nothing. He just turned and walked away.
Walked away. Yeah, deal with it, man. That's the way it goes.
He just turned and walked away.
Yeah, we're one of the few places, and that was, Fred, I think Coach Bouchard did that when he was there, that we're one of the few places where the visiting team is on the home side with the most places it's the other way around. So at Palmyra, the visiting team is in front of the home bleachers, and then we're on the visitor side. That's a neat setup for Palmyra. And that's a game, too, that you guys, and I can't remember, of course, that was so many years ago, and so many brain cells have died between, those days and now. But we had a really good team, period. But you had a really good D lineman that year. I cannot think of his name for the life. I don't want to say he was number 9. And he was whipping my guard's butt. And I remember at halftime, we're going up there. And as you say, you found a kid that you always, we always say every team's got a donkey. Every offensive lineman's got a donkey. And you found ours. And you put that kid on him. I remember going in at halftime, and my whole line coach is going, we got to take so-and-so off the field. And I'm like, that kid has been on the field for 11 freaking games. We're not taking him off the field. We've got to find a way to make him successful. So what we did is we moved the guard and the tackle. We flip-flopped them, and it was a lot better second half for us. So our other kid did a lot better job against your young man. And again, it was a fun game. It was a fun game. So.
Oh, yeah. It was a great game, and I know the kid you're talking about, and I am not going to tell him that compliment because he is as squirrely as all get out. I actually happen to work with his wife right now, and I'll tell his wife that story.
Yeah,
she won't even tell him because she's like, no, I'm not going to tell him that.
Good. Well, it was fun. It was a fun game. I remember, and it's funny because the kid, the coach that did it, he just took the head coaching job at South Shelby. And it was literally a fight. Him and I almost got in a fight at halftime, but talking about that, I'm like, we are not replacing that guard. He has been there all year long. You've got to find a way to make him better or make it better because we're not taking him off the field. Taking him off the field. So it was funny.
Nice. That's fantastic.
Those are the things that make coaching fun, It just makes it exciting. So anyway,
absolutely,
good times.
Absolutely.
We were talking to somebody the other night, and we said, the stories that happen is what you remember the most.
Yeah.
Winning is awesome. It never gets old, but
right.
all the stories that go with it, kind of like you two just talking, it's still vivid in your mind, and I can get a glimpse of that just based on how you guys are talking about it. So Coach, I'm going to ask you here to start with, I guess with the caveat, I hope everybody in Palmyra doesn't strangle me if they ever meet me, but I have never been to Palmyra.
Uh-huh.
I've driven through it, because my brother actually went to Culver Stockton, which was about the same time you were coaching up there. And so for all our listeners out there, which, are kind of multiplying as we speak with each episode, tell them about Palmyra, Missouri.
Well, Palmyra is a town that I don't really know that it's ever really grown much over the size it is now. It's always been a town of about 3,000 to 4,000 people. I am a Palmyra native. I was born and raised. My dad was a principal, a coach, a principal, a superintendent for numerous years. So I moved around some. I actually went to school in Monroe City till second grade. Yeah, I know. So I have some black and gold blood in me. So I know you, brother. That's one of the things we'll talk about in a little bit. So I was born there. My dad was a principal and superintendent at Monroe for almost 30 years. So there's a lot of history there for me there. But my parents divorced when I was in second grade, and my mom moved to Palmyra. My dad stayed in Monroe. So it was kind of a funny thing. And I moved to Palmyra. And so I've lived here most of my young life and adult life. And, but it's a small town. It's a pretty close knit town. It's like I said, it's a town about 3,000. And so to come here, I think I found talking to people that it's hard. I think it's a hard town to move into and to kind of get involved in because of the close knit community, and I think sometimes it's hard I think anytime a small town, it's hard to kind of move into as you go and just to meet new people and do those type of things. It's a really neat town, got a lot of history and a lot of athletics, and it's a neat community that I think that is really it's a neat place to live in, a really pretty community, a real nice town.
Yeah, I enjoyed it when we rolled through there. The town seemed like a place where you want to raise your family.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. Yeah, I mean, it's got a lot of great people. I mean, just like any other town, a lot of really nice towns in this area. But I mean, it really is. It's a clean town and a lot of good people, a lot of good things going on, a lot of small restaurants, small businesses, and people that really care about athletics, which is always good. If you're a coach, you want to live in a community that cares about athletics, and that's something that Palmyra does care a lot about, and that's a plus for me to be in a place that puts that as a top priority.
Absolutely, 100%. Now, we were talking off air, Coach, and you did not take a traditional path to get to teaching. U.S. Navy, thank you for your service. Thank you very much. And some other things. So tell us where did it start, and then how you got into teaching. What were you doing?
Well, I actually, when I first got out of high school, I went to college at Culver, and I went there as my family is my mom and dad are both grew up from Shelbina. They're both South Shelby graduates, and my family is the Hatchers, and my uncle owned a pharmacy. So my parents' plan was for me to go to pharmaceutical school at Culver, to pre-pharmaceutical school, and then go on from there. Well, I was not really ready for college. My first semester was not probably, you've heard of, you've seen Animal House. That was kind of how my first semester of college. My first semester GPA was probably close to 0.00. I mean, I didn't probably go to class very much. I didn't make a lot of good decisions. So when the first semester grades came in, my stepdad looked at me and he just said, "Son, you're either going to get a job and get out of the house, or you're going to the military." So I ended up going to the U.S. Navy, and it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me at the time, because if not, I'm not sure I'd knock on wood. I don't mean to trip. I'm not sure where I'd ended up if I hadn't done that. Sure. So I spent 4 years in the U.S. Navy, grew up a lot, learned a lot, and went a lot of places that I never would have gone if I haven't done that. Yeah. And I think that was for me at the time, it was a great decision, and I did that. So did that, and I joined up I signed it for 6, but I got out after 4. My son was born in San Diego, California, when I was in the Persian Gulf, and I ended up getting out after 4 because I didn't get to see him till he was 6 months old, because I was in the Gulf, and that just wasn't where I wanted to be. So I got out and came back to Palmyra, and all through high school, I had worked at Lewis Brothers Funeral Home on Saturdays. That was my weekend job. I mowed, vacuumed, just did odds and ends around there. My family was friends with Jack Lewis and Gadget Lewis, the family that owned it, and so I would just do weekend jobs there. It's a good thing for me in athletics because they worked around my schedule. They let me make a little bit extra money. So when I got out of the Navy, I went to mortuary science school in Kansas City, Kansas. We got married to Jennifer, was my wife, and we married and had Levi, like I said, was in the Navy. And we lived in Kansas City, Kansas. I went to mortuary science school, graduated. I have a license. I am a licensed funeral director and embalmer.
Nice.
I did that for 4 years, 5 years. I worked at different places. Worked at Lake of the Ozarks, different things. Worked in Quincy. I worked for Zender or Hedges Funeral Home in Camdenton, and they have one in Camdenton and one in Osage Beach for a while. And then anyway, I got out of that, and really for that I enjoyed that, but it just wasn't kind of where I wanted to be. So I came back to Palmyra and I worked at Die Makers Incorporated, and that's when Fred Bouchard came to Palmyra. It would have been probably mid '90s, and I was a decent athlete in high school. I played football as a quarterback. At one point, I held the passing record at Palmyra High School. And so
Nice.
Fred had heard my name just through, talking to different people in the community. So he had approached me about coaching, being a volunteer assistant for his program. And that was one thing that was great about Fred, and he was good about getting guys involved. And so when when he asked me to be a volunteer assistant, and I jumped in with both feet, because I was didn't really know what I wanted to be. I really just didn't know that I wanted to work in a factory for the rest of my life. And so I did that. I worked 11 to 7 and coaching football. So I did that. And then when I was blessed, when Fred went to Culver Stockton College, he asked me to go with him. So I went to Culver. I got a free education, which was a godsend, and I thank Fred for that every day. And then after that, I applied for a job at Mark Twain High School, and Larry Rollins hired me, and it's been crazy ever since. So it's been a crazy path to get where I am, and I could, it's been fun though. It's been crazy, and I'm blessed to be where I am right now. So
I am fascinated by this embalmer stuff. When you told us that off air, I was like, this is so intriguing to me. And there'll be people listening to this like, oh God, here he goes again. But
yeah.
So I got to know, you got a strange story, a wild story that you can tell us that you dealt with being at the funeral home?
Well, I'll tell you, I worked in Kansas City for a lot of years. So I worked some interesting funerals. I worked the Kaufman funeral when the owner of Kansas City Royals, when he passed away. I got to work that funeral. So I've done a lot of different things like that. I've seen a lot of professionals and things like that. Worked some pretty crazy things. I'd say some of the craziest things that I've seen is just the families you deal with. You deal with a lot of, and I won't say crazy families, but it's just some crazy requests. Hey,
right.
Yeah, can we drink a beer with Grandpa? Can we do this? And you'll have a lot of them that'll come in and want to drink beer and want to do shots with Grandpa and things like that. It's just just the crazy. You get some pretty crazy requests, and I think that's the thing. And it never bothered me, and I was always like, sure, because I could get that. Somebody because it's one of those things. You just want them to have whatever closure they need to have, as long as it's not anything illegal or sickening or grotesque, of course, it's just, but you're trying to be there for the family and do those type things. So, but when you work, especially when you work in the Kansas City area, and I did that for 2.5 years when I was in mortuary science school, you meet a lot of crazy individuals and you do a lot of silly things. So, nothing real crazy, but you just see a lot of interesting things and you hear a lot of interesting thoughts and things like that.
That's just fascinating to me. My neighbor, if he ever listens to this, he's gonna die laughing, no pun intended. But
yeah.
I was over at his house one day helping him move a cast iron stove that he got, which it wasn't just me and him. We needed about half the neighborhood to move that thing.
Right.
And he's got this metal rod in the back of his truck, and I'm like, "What is this thing?" And he goes, "Oh, that's like a casket thing." I'm like,
Trocar, yeah, or something, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, oh, I'm working part-time up at the funeral home. And you talk about strange coincidence here between that conversation about 2 months ago and now talking to you. It's
Now,
just
talking to me, that's
it's
yeah,
amazing to me.
it is. You know, and it's kind of funny because the little things you do and over the years, and you go and somebody passes away and you're in a hearse and you're going to pick somebody up that maybe passed away in San Diego and they're flying them in. You pick them up and you're at the airport and you load them up and you're going through a drive-through and the fun things you would do, and you're at the drive-through window and you put the window up and you ask the guy and say, hey, you guys want anything back there? And things like that. But if your bosses knew you were probably doing things like that in their hearse, they probably would get in trouble. But just to kind of mess with the people at the drive-through window is always kind of fun. Teenage
That's fantastic. That's going on the next promo video right there.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Yeah, great.
That's the intro. There's the intro. We got it. Yeah, that's the intro. I love it.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to move off that subject. I'm going to move off of it because JR won't let us ever get to football.
I'll let it go forever.
Yeah, Coach Palmyra, tradition central in Missouri. Very, very rich in tradition. I could see it from the first time I was there. I could see it from the community, like you talked about already a little bit with growing up in that town. Tell us about the tradition at Palmyra. Tell us about the things that you see motivating not only the players, but admin, parents, local community members, and how that motivates you on a Friday or Saturday when the clock sounds and it's time to play a game.
Well, I just know that, growing up here and being, in the early 80s, when we had, the Mike Frankenbachs, the Todd Kaisers, the Danny Bowares, all those guys that played when I was in middle school and back in the day when we played Genevieve Valley. I mean, it was like every year it was Palmyra and Genevieve Valley playing on Saturday and for the state semifinals and those type things. And those are things I'll never forget. And, and just all the great excitement that would go along with football. And it wasn't just football, I guess. I mean, we had undefeated state championships in basketball and all those type things. And, and I think those are things that, that did fuel me. But I will say this, that, when I left Palmyra in 2000 and went to Mark Twain, I don't think I would have ever guessed that I would have been where I am today. I think my path kind of went where it was. I was at Mark Twain, went to Unionville, didn't have a great experience at Unionville, ended up getting divorced, ended up back at Palmyra as a junior high football coach. I did 2 years here as a junior high football coach. It was really kind of a lost soul. I didn't really know where I wanted to be. I came here because that's where I wanted to raise my family. And then ended up being a head football coach here. And now for me, it's just like, wow, to be back here where I was raised, I just don't think it ever would have happened if my path hadn't gone the way it was. And in the 2 years being here as a junior high coach kind of refreshed me and let me see what coaching was again and really start to relish those traditions again that I think I lost there for a while. So, to see that and to be here and then to see the things that Coach Bouchard did when he was here and to kind of get those traditions back and get some of that pride back into the community, into the football program. And then to come back here again when we were in kind of a downward spiral again. And then to be able to be part of the coaching staff that was bringing it back up and having that time when we played Blair Oaks, in that first state quarterfinal game that had been years since we had done that. And to be a part of that and to see that excitement in the community again, for me, has just been huge. And then we had the 2 or the 3 state semifinals, that we went to after that, and the 3 district championships in a row, and all that kind of stuff. Now it's just, you see it in our kids' eyes, you see it in our parents' eyes. It's just kind of become the expectations. We haven't had the success to get back there, but we're always there knocking on the door. Clark County's had some great teams. Monroe's had some great teams. So we've been a little bit short. But that expectation's there from our kids, from our coaches, from our fans, from our administrators. And, it's just good to see us kind of all pulling in the same direction and doing those things. So, it's just, Coach Hurst was here. We had success, and you saw Fred bring it in now to be a part of that now. I'm very blessed, and it just fuels me every day to keep working and trying to do those things.
You guys play in the Clarence Cannon Conference, which, traditionally has some very good teams. And I remember, we'll be coming back from Friday nights with games, whether it was Blair Oaks or Jeff City, and flipping on the radio, and you'd hear the updates coming in from everybody in that conference. Who is the team that always shows up no matter what?
Well, I mean, I think, there for the longest time, it was always Centralia. I mean, I think you always knew a coach team was always going to be ready to kick some butt, and now, crap, I think it's just about everybody. I mean, it's just it's gotten to be where there's nobody left. I mean, we've had some teams leave the conference because they just didn't want to, they wanted that. The grind in the CCC is just tough, and Ethan's done a great, and then adding Clark County and Brookfield to the mix, and it's just like, holy crime and Netley, it just continues to be a grind. So, it'll be interesting this year. We got 3 new coaches coming in with all this going on with the the coronavirus. Those guys not getting time with their kids, how that's going to affect, but Coach Kirby, Coach Allen, those 2 guys always do a great job, at their 2 schools. Coach Stevens at Brookfield's kind of new, and he's getting things going. So, I think right now Monroe and Clark are probably the top 2 teams in the conference that you got to contend with every year. And those are the ones you just know that when you play those guys, you're going to get hit, and you're going to get hit hard. And the red, and then, you just know it's just kind of the way it's going to be.
Yeah, JR is right. We listen to all those scores, and we're always kind of fact checking and seeing what's going on. And you always hear that the games are, I don't really hear about any like huge big blowouts. I hear about games that seem like they come down to the end, and that's what you love about high school football, man. That's what you love about getting out there and competing. And trust me, like JR said, it's nice to win. It's nice to do a great job, but it's probably not the things you remember. It's probably not a lot of the things you learn from. I'm going to ask you about Palmyra a little bit more, but you mentioned something, and I would feel bad if I didn't ask. You're at Palmyra going into your 11th year. You talked about some of the hardships coming up, some of the different paths that you took. It's May 7th, 2020 or so, I think. The days are running together with the COVID. So what would you tell yourself 20 years ago, talking to yourself, knowing what you know now? If you had one chance to go back and have that conversation, what are you looking at you and saying, hey man, this is what you need to focus up and listen to me for the next few minutes?
I think, and that's, to me, it's an easy question, because it's something I've learned, and I've started to tell my coaches, don't make decisions out of anger. Don't make decisions out of bitterness. Because I think that I really think I'm not sure to this day if I hadn't done that. Honestly, I don't know that I still wouldn't be at Mark Twain today. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That was a place that I really enjoyed being at. My family enjoyed it there. We had a lot of good friends. We were there for 6 years. And I wasn't bitter with, and I wasn't bitter with, I don't know. It was a thing. At the time, I was the AD, transportation director, maintenance director. I mean, I was a kind of an administrator, and I wanted to coach also. And they were transitioning. They kind of made me choose, and I didn't want to choose. I wanted to do it all. I was greedy. Yeah. I was young, stupid, and greedy, and I was still a young coach in coaching years, not, and they said no. And that kind of, so I left there saying, well, then fine, I'm going to go someplace else where I can be an AD and be a coach. And they wanted, anyway, I just think back, and I think that was probably a decision that I probably regretted a little bit, because then my next ride at Unionville was not a good experience for me and my family, and it was a bad experience. I mean, and there was a lot of things that happened there that, anyway, I think that's the thing is, I always tell my coaches, don't ever apply for a job that you're not going to be okay not getting. If you're not going to be okay not getting it, then don't apply for it, because there's a lot of good coaches out there. They're going to apply for these jobs, and
Yeah.
don't be bitter. Be able to understand if you don't, and then if you don't get it, you need to take some time and think about it and talk to people, and don't make decisions out of anger, and don't do something you're going to regret years from now. So that's to be the thing.
Yeah.
That'd be the thing I would tell a young Kevin Miles is don't make decisions out of bitterness.
Yeah. JR, I know people haven't heard all the episodes that we have sitting in reserve, just waiting. But you and I both know there's been like this common theme of coaches who have been around for a while, and they are looking back on things that were going on. And,
Yeah.
we've talked to people all over the country and like, man, I made some dumb
Yeah.
mistakes and some stupid decisions when I was younger. And if I could just have this conversation, I would love to do this. So I love that stuff, Coach. Thanks for sharing. I really appreciate it.
When I look for my coaches, I said, hey, if you got something you want to, if you're angry about something, because my mom, one of the biggest pieces of advice my mom told me one time is, if you got something you want to say that's angry, Kevin, type it up, send it to me. I'll read it, I'll delete it, and then you got it off your chest, and then it's gone. And now you're not sending it to the person that you want to send it to, but you've at least said it to somebody.
Right.
So
Right.
have somebody that you trust that you can say those things to.
Yeah.
And get it out of your chest and say it, but then maybe it's not going to bite you in the butt. It's not going to hurt you.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
that's why I told the coaches, I'll be that guy for you. You can say it to me, and I'll be your sounding board.
I love it. Now that's another reason we know why Palmyra is so successful year in and year out. So you mentioned it, COVID-19. Some guys can't get to their teams. Some guys can, or they've at least had experience with their teams. So when they're talking and texting or Zoom meeting or doing whatever, they at least have a little common knowledge. So we get to go back in the summer, whatever day that may be. Don't know yet. There's a lot of people smarter than me doing this. So day one, practice one, it's the first thing you're putting in because it is Palmyra football. What is it?
Well, probably 3 years ago, I would have told you it would have been Veer. I mean, we've always been a Veer team, but we've kind of gotten now where we're not as much a Veer team. We're now probably more of a power ISO team. So we're going to be that. We're going to probably I was kind of, as you said that to me today, and I got to looking at our practice schedules, and I learned last year, my good friend Kevin Kriedemeyer and we started going a couple years ago, and I say last year really was the first year we did it, but we went to KU and watched Les Miles's camp. And then we went to Mizzou, and just kind of we're going to start going around. We hope to, and just start watching camps. And Mizzou did something great last year that we really liked. They did 5-minute sessions where they just rapid fire pass routes or and they just did 5 minutes, and then they blow a whistle and you sprint to another station, and it's in an offensive station, and they just rapid fire. So that's become something we started doing, and we did that last year the first day. So we had one group that was running the bubble, one group was running the slant, one group was running a jump cut drill, and one group was learning the ISO, and we were running ISO, and we were just doing different things like that. So that's kind of that's going to be our first thing we're probably going to do. And we're going to talk tempo, and we're going to talk, just basic ISO, type stuff or power stuff. And then we're going to talk catching the ball and focusing on what we're going to do, because we've kind of become that team where, we're getting quarterbacks right now that are throwing the ball more and doing those things. So we've gotten where we're going to be, we're just going to do those type of things. I think for me right now, we're going to talk tempo and power football. We still want to be a power team. So that's what we're going to do. Power, tempo and power football is what we're going to talk.
Nice.
Well, to me, a quick question, a really long question.
You mentioned Monroe City, Palmyra. What's the top 3 moments of that rivalry that you remember vividly?
One's going to be when I played. It would have been 1986 football season, so my senior year, and it was the Mud Bowl.
Oh.
And it was me and Mike Smith, 2 quarterbacks. And I mean, there was so much mud. I think we won the game 6-0, if I remember right. I think it was a punt return maybe, and we ran. But I remember I ran like a quarterback bootleg or something, and I turned, and I remember him and I hit each other head on, and I think we both damn near got knocked out. And to me, that was one of That's one of the moments I'll never forget. And him and I still every now and then we'll see each other and we'll talk about it and those type things. That was also, I think Michael Washington was a freshman and he ran us over. Or he was a big old mean old dude. If you remember Michael Washington at Mizzou, he was a dude. But anyway, so that's one. And then I think the first time winning the Mayor's Cup. That's, because now it's called the Mayor's Cup. It wasn't called the Mayor's Cup back then. The first time winning the Mayor's Cup, which would have been probably the year I think we played Blair Oaks in the quarterfinals. I think that would have been that year we won the Mayor's Cup. That was a neat year to win that. That was also a white sweater team that was undefeated, regular season undefeated team. So that was kind of a neat team that we had. And then I think just this last year, with the passing of Jamar White, that was a neat one. That a little heart, it hurts a little bit. But that was a neat one because even though we lost, Jamar was someone that was close to both communities. His son's he lives in Palmyra, and being over here and having that game and with all the things that went on that night, that was probably the three biggest ones for me. And that was, even though we lost, that was probably the most touching one, just to see the two communities come together like that, for two communities that really don't have a lot of love for each other, and there really isn't a lot of love between Palmyra and Monroe. To see them come together like that for that night, it's kind of a neat thing. So it's kind of cool. So, Yep.
Football is way more than what happens on that rectangle.
For sure, yeah. And it's crazy because they beat us that night, and we played them. We played them a week later, and we annihilated them. I mean, we should have probably beat them both nights, but there was so much emotion that night that they had. They kind of, they beat us. We, for whatever reason, we were, they had a lot of things going on, and it was a crazy couple of weeks right there, and for them and for us, and they played with a lot of emotion. Coach Kirby had his guys ready, and they dropped a hammer on us that night, won the Mayor's Cup, and but that was one of the neatest games, and just seeing all the, the people it was a good thing, and it was a thing to see the two communities come together for a family that had just lost a good man.
It keeps going, JR, right? I mean, it takes me back to the story we heard last night, and that'll come out with Coach Sherman and whatever. But Coach Palmyra certainly is a special place for you. It's a special place for a lot of people. I'm surprised they allowed somebody with a little bit of history of black and gold to come into the town, but that's okay. So at some point, there's going to be somebody listening to this podcast who they're thinking about where should they move and where should they send their child. And maybe it's for football, maybe it's for baseball, maybe it's basketball, maybe it's volleyball, or maybe it's just to live in one of the best towns in the state of Missouri. So in your opinion, why does somebody move to Palmyra and go to their school district?
Well, I just think because, I mean, even though Palmyra is a great sports community, we're always going to put the kids first. Our school's always going to put the kids first, because I know that we're never going to say sports is more important than their education. And I mean, that could be a good thing and a bad thing. Some parents may not come here for that reason. We're always going to do what's right for the kids, but we're never going to say that the individual is never more important than the whole. You know what I'm saying? We're going to do what's best for the whole group. We're going to do what's best for the program. We're going to do what's best for, for our community and for our everybody than we are going to do over that one kid. So I'm just going to say it's a great place because we're going to care about every kid. And that's the thing I can say about us. We don't care. We're going to put everybody on a pedestal. We're not going to take one kid and we're not going to signify one over the other. And we're going to make sure we're going to make sure that we're going to put out good kids that are make good decisions. They're going to be, good citizens, good men, good women, and they're going to be good, smart. They're going to be good athletically, and they're going to make good decisions in life. And I think that's kind of what I think our principal and our superintendent have. And our principal's a great man, Mr. Pontius, great man. He's a former football coach for me, played football here. We're very blessed, and I will say this. I mean, I've been very blessed to have coaches that have been on my staff since they played since they were on the Blair Oaks game, and now I'm getting kids that played. I'm hoping we just hired a guy that played in that game, and he's going to come back and be on my coaching staff now. He just graduated from college, and he's going to come back and coach. I mean, so we have a lot of people that I think, to me, that says a testament for Palmyra that people go out and then they come back and they're going to teach here and they're going to live here because they want to raise their kids here. And that, to me, says a lot about what the town is when they're not willing to go. They don't want to go live other places. They want to come back here and live in Palmyra.
100% agree.
It's amazing to me, Bill and I get to hear every episode before it goes out. And when we ask people to talk about their communities, just the pride that everybody shows in it, and the community, the school, the kids, everything that's going on, it's really just a special thing, I think, when we ask people such as yourself just to talk about the community a little bit, because like me, I've never been up to Palmyra for any extended period of time, and I feel like if I went there, I'd be okay. It just seems like a place that people want to be, and people like to be there for sure.
Yeah. It was good. I enjoyed my time there. It reminds you of one of those small towns that you just fit in, and like they're happy you're there, right? Listen, I've been in a lot of communities, okay, and I went to med school in Chicago, and the rule is you don't even look up and make eye contact because you're worried that somebody's going to shoot you, okay?
Right.
And I've been in communities where everybody is like, "Hey, how you doing? How you doing? What do you need? Can I help you? Are you new here? Do you know where to go?" Right?
Right.
Yeah.
And they automatically, like, it doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter who you are. They're like, "Oh, you're here now. You're part of us. Okay, great. Let's see what's going on. How you been?" Totally awesome. I love it, Coach. We'll have to come back up to
Kind of how I would
Palmyra.
rate. I mean, I'm a small town guy, and true story. When one time when I was in it was 1986, and we were at Springfield, Missouri for the state basketball tournament. Our girls were playing for the state championship, and it was way after late. Probably should not have been out, and we were out, and I got mugged, and we got mugged in a park in the alleyway coming back from Hardee's to get something to eat or something like that. All my buddies ran. But I'm the idiot that stood there and just said, "Hey guys, how's it going?" Hey, I'm from Palmyra, Missouri. I didn't know no better, because I just didn't. I was a dumb hick, and that's just kind of how I was raised. And my buddy's like, "You're an idiot." I'm like, "Oh, thought I was being nice to those guys." And I ended up getting mugged and lost $60. I got hit over the head with a freaking bat.
Oh my goodness!
I didn't get hurt. They took my money and hit me in the head. It was like crap. But my stepdad's like, "You're an idiot." I'm like, "I know. I should have ran."
Some of the stories we hear on here, it's unbelievable. It's just I told Bill, Coach Steve Walker rides with us to the games. We all take turns driving, and I said we're going to keep Steve entertained for years to come, just with some of the stories we've heard. So off air, Coach, we kind of talked to you a little bit about this poll that Coach Duke and I put up. That we claim that there's only 3 ways to run the ball. You can either do it inside the tackles, outside the tackles, or some type of option which would give you, one person inside, one person outside the tackles. So our question to you, do you agree with us? Or if you do not, what would be your take on our basic premise that there's only 3 ways to run the ball?
Well, now that you kind of explained it to me when we got to thinking, so I've thought about it a little bit as we were talking. I mean, I really think that that's spot on, because I thought, well, okay, you got jet, that's outside. You run anything else? You talked about quarterback sneak, and really, it's inside the tackles. I mean, whatever. So I think that's legit. I mean, I think that definitely makes sense. Inside, outside, and I think that's 100% right. I mean, I don't think there's any other way. Because I think even if you consider throwing the bubble as a run game, that's outside the tackles. That's good. So I think that's spot on, and I'm buying it. I'm saying 3 ways to run the football. I'm in.
There you go, JR.
Awesome.
There's one word I have, JR, and that's for you and I. It's winning. We are winning. We are winning. We are changing the world. That's right. We're changing the way scouting looks at things on multiple levels.
Sure. Exactly.
Coach, I could say this. You and I don't really know each other. We've had a chance to talk to a few times, and I've valued those things. but I could tell you that Palmyra is lucky to have you.
Yeah,
And that whether you came from Monroe City or whatever path you took, God has placed you where you need to be. And I think it's totally awesome, the togetherness and the cohesion that that community has, and the kids that are coming back to want to coach and be a part of it. I've been fortunate enough to be in a couple of those communities myself growing up, because I still think I'm a kid. I'm 45, but I still think I'm a kid. My left hip doesn't agree with me, but the rest of my body does. And I still think I could play a little bit, even though JR says I can't.
There's no way.
It's
You
okay.
tried to get a guy from Prep Star to recruit him, for crying out
I
loud.
did.
I mean,
I did.
What are we doing around here?
I did. Coach, I love the fact that you're so passionate, and we could see it in everything that you've explained today. We really appreciate you being here. Regardless of whatever kind of offense you do or what you do on day one, I know that the Palmyra football program and the school district is in excellent hands. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. It's been a great time, and I really have enjoyed this, and it's been fun just chatting with you guys. And it's fun just sometimes just not even really just kind of chit chatting about different things. So it was a good time to visit, and I look forward to getting and listen to more of your all stuff, and just kind of get to do those things, and hopefully get to come back to your clinic next year. And
yeah, absolutely.
And,
you're going to be
listen. So it was.
You're going to be speaking next year, Coach. I want to hear all about that. I want to hear all about that circuit you got going.
Yeah, I was going to say I forgot that.
Yeah,
I am talking, so.
You're speaking next year. So
yeah, we'll make a special session, how to embalm, and
yeah,
we'll be
put that in my PowerPoint that I have.
We can do it.
Yeah,
that's right.
I'll be the guy in the back dying laughing. So it'll be great.
Well, I'm Coach Duke. He's Coach Simmons. We've been fortunate to have Coach Miles here from Palmyra. Until next time, process, preparation, performance. We're out.
Thanks, guys.